Hello everyone. I, Dr. Shilpa Agrawal Gupta, Assistant Professor in Department of Commerce at Bhopal School of Social Sciences, welcome you all in this lecture titled Management by Objectives. The topics which we are going to cover under this lecture are Introduction of MBO, Concept, Definitions, Steps in MBO, its advantages and limitations. The concept of management by objectives, which is also termed as management by results, was propounded by Peter Drucker in the year 1954, which aimed at accomplishment of objectives through participation of all concerned persons, whether they are subordinates or superiors. That is why it is called as the participative and democratic style of management, because everyone is involved in the goal setting process. Now coming to its concepts. The principle behind management by objective is to make sure that everybody within the organization has clear understanding of the aims and objectives of that organization, as well as they should also aware about their own goals and responsibility in achieving those aims. Now coming to the definition. As stated by John Humble, MBO is a dynamic system which seeks to integrate the company's needs to clarify and achieve its profits and growth goals with the manager's need to contribute and develop himself. It is a demanding and rewarding style of managing a business. Now let us talk about the various steps involved in the MBO process. The very first step is setting overall organizational goals. So in these steps, the advices and suggestions of all the departmental heads are taken and goals or objectives of the organization are set by the management. Now the second step is setting up subordinates goals. After setting the overall goals, in this stage a mutual negotiation or discussion takes place between the superiors and subordinates, and the targets to be achieved by the subordinates are decided. Now in the third stage, matching goals and resources. Now in this stage, the availability of resources are taken into account. Means as to match the objectives to be achieved, because if the resources are less, then the organization has to make some arrangements for them, and if they are sufficient, then to ensure the proper utilization of those. Next is developing action plans. So at this stage it is analyzed whether where to utilize those resources, means which area the resources are to be employed more, whether it is productivity, innovation, workers' performance, profitability or any other area. So these plans are usually formulated at the lower level of management in consultation with the superiors. Now the fifth step is periodic meetings. At frequent intervals, actual performance is reviewed jointly by the superiors and subordinates. The top level management will be able to know about, means through this process basically the top level management will be able to know about the views and the difficulties faced by the staff in achieving those targets. Now the next step is appraisal of performances. Evaluation of performances at the end of the period is essential to assess the work. The superior should evaluate the work of the subordinates to find out the deviations, if any. The person whose performance is below the standard performance, they are penalized, and those whose performance is outstanding or above the standard which is marked, so they are rewarded. Advantages of MBO. Very first is formulation of clear goals. MBO produces clear and measurable performance goals. Goals are determined through employees' participation, and therefore they carry their part of job actively and willingly. The employees are clear as to what is expected out of them. This enhances the team spirit and better intergroup communication. Second is result oriented planning. MBO is, as we discussed, that MBO is called as the management by results. So, the objectives framed by an organization are measurable and verifiable, which can easily be translated into action plans. Third is it provides personal satisfaction. Now, when the individuals are involved in the objective setting process, so they derive satisfaction because they feel that they are the important part of the organization, which is indeed the source of inspiration for better performance. Beside these, even they are very sure that the performance will be measured in terms of the actual performance and will not be affected by the managerial prejudices, biases or other personal factors. Next is basis for organizational change. In any organization, change is required because of the change in external factors and the internal factors, or change taking place in both the factors simultaneously. So, therefore, to cope up with such changes, the organization has to change itself appropriately. Next is it raises the employees' morale, which is also called as motivation. So, managers at all levels are involved in the goal setting process. So, as a result, they are more committed to the goals of the organization. Rewards are also linked with the performances, which is again a source of motivation for all. Next is facilitates performance appraisal. So, MBO provides objective yardstick for systematic evaluation of performances. The performances of subordinates are monitored timely, which is also helpful in providing the feedback. So, we can say that measurable targets serve good standard of control. Next is it improves better relationships. Setting of goal through MBO improves the relationship between the employer and the employees. It creates a healthy environment of cooperation, integration and coordination, and the organizational goals are achieved with zeal and enthusiasm. Next is it facilitates effective control. The self-appraisal system promotes self-control by employees. Continuous monitoring of one's own or subordinates' performance is an essential feature of MBO. This is useful for achieving the better results. Actual performance can be measured against the standards laid down for the measurement of performance, and deviations are corrected in time. Now, disadvantages of MBO. A number of problems are confronted while implementing this technique. So, following are the weaknesses. The very first is difficulty in setting quantitative targets. So, MBO is successful if the targets are laid down in measurable terms. If they cannot be set in measurable terms, it is difficult to judge the performance. So, it is not possible to implement MBO effectively. Next is reward and punishment approach. MBO is basically a pressure oriented program, like it is based on reward punishment psychology. So, it tries to create a pressure of improvement on all the employees. At times, it may penalize the people whose performance remains below the goal. This put mental pressure on staff. Yeah, of course, rewards are also provided for the superior performances. Next is emphasize on short term goal. MBO emphasizes on short term goal. The long term and the quantitative objectives are not given proper attention. Next, it is time consuming. MBO has been criticized as time consuming. It is a time consuming process basically. Objectives at all level of the organizations are set carefully after considering all the pros and cons of the system, which actually consumes a lot of time. Like the superiors are required to hold frequent meetings in order to acquaint the subordinates with the new system. MBO generates more paperwork. MBO program introduce an ocean of paperwork such as training manuals, newsletters, instruction booklets, questionnaires, performance data, reports and so on into the organization. So, managers need information, feedback in order to know that what is exactly going on in the organization, and the employees are expected to fill a number of forms, thus increase the paperwork. Next is inflexible approach. MBO may introduce inflexibility in the organization. Once the goals are set down, the superior may not likely to modify them easily and frequently due to the fear of resistance from the subordinates. So, these were all the weaknesses of MBO system. That is all for today. Thank you and have a great day.